Welcome to Galactic Grandmother Heart to Heart. My name is April, and my special guest today is Chris EATON. Chris comes to us from Florida, where he is a death doula, a wellness educator. He's a breathwork and meditation teacher, and he owns the Trinity Yoga Wellness Center in, let me get this right, Newport Richey, Florida. And I'm very excited to find out Chris's personal journey to get to where he is as a death doula and what you do as a death doula. So, welcome, Chris. I'm so happy to have you share your time with us today.
Oh, thank you, April. Thank you for having me on, and hello to whomever is listening at this moment.
For our audience that doesn't know who you are, could you give us a little background about your personal journey and how you got into what you're doing these days?
Yeah. Oh man, my journey. I took the adventurous route when I came to Earth. So my first 40 years was a little bit lonely, a lot of hiccups along the way. When I was a kid, I felt very lively but alone. I was seen but not heard. I was not taught of how to express or deal with tough moments in life, and so I became quite introverted as I got older. And not knowing how to process the emotions, as those rise and what to do with that, or no one to really sit down and speak with when we're trying to justify or rationalize whatever it is that we experienced. And so I was bullied a lot when I was a kid, like the black eyes and shoved in locker type deal. And as I got older, that kind of worked out for me because I joined the military and I'd already become a pro at not showing my emotions, just poker face and, dig down into
Mhm.
that left brain and really perform at the workplace. So I excelled there. I excelled in sports. Those were my outlets. And then I spent somewhere just short of 5 years between the military and then afterwards I was a contractor, 5 years over in Iraq, Afghanistan, and some of the
Oh.
other surrounding countries. So it was a lot of intense moments, a lot of near-death experiences. There was good, bad, and ugly sides of pretty much everything. It's not just
Oh.
over there.
I
Life
have
in
to
general.
interrupt you there. Did you actually yourself have a near death experience?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
please tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, there was multiple times where I didn't understand who my higher self was or quantum or consciousness, whatever it is that can be our guiding force.
Mhm.
And at the time, I just called it my gut instinct, but I was standing around and I just had this inclination like, wow, this is a really, really weird moment, but we need to move. And I told my buddy that. And within 30 seconds, we were only about 500 feet away from where we were. Mortar rounds started dropping.
Oh.
And you're just like, holy cow. And then it happened again. And then I'm driving along the highways in Baghdad and I'm supposed to take a right turn, but I yell over the microphone because I was the commander of that time. And I said, go straight, go straight. And so they went straight. An hour later, they were attacked on that road, a different group, and they lost a leg and one of their comrades. And so those guiding voices in those moments was absolutely crazy, knowing like if I hadn't acted, if I hadn't heard, then what may have happened? And then there was a time where I was in a watchtower and I was nearly hit by a sniper. And you just kind of pause. You're like, okay, I don't know how much longer I can do this.
Mhm.
Um, and so 2012, I wrapped up that career and started changing my life, becoming different. But yeah, those near moments, but it's also really scary. I was the guy that was going in with other people, kicking open doors at times, and you don't know what's behind the doors. You'd
Mhm.
hope that it was just, a bad person, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to surrender." But no, that's not it. We all want to survive, but we were lucky, very fortunate. I went with 43 people over there in the military, and I came back with all 43,
Ooh.
um, and very blessed. But the other side of my life is since 2010, I've had 33 friends, acquaintances, and people that I've known that have taken their life because of PTSD and
Oh. Oh boy.
post-war. And some of those, I know at least four or five were not related to the military. It's just stressors of life. You don't have to go to war and face true combat or something like that in order to just sometimes they just lose their way, or sometimes something unjustified happens, or it's a death, or a
Mhm.
big T trauma, I like to call it. But for me, when I got back, getting out of the military and changing careers, I found myself in 2018 just drinking away my sorrows. Not
Mhm.
like an alcoholic, like Homer Simpson or something, where every day is a binge drinking, but I was a functional alcoholic. And it made me feel better because that's what everyone else, when I looked around, they were drinking and they were having fun. So I was like, well, I want to have more fun because I'm not feeling really good inside. And so I didn't know that I was bearing and that I was avoiding. So 2018 came around. There was way too many thoughts in my mind. My body was feeling like junk. I drank so much alcohol. I was drinking two-thirds to a full 750 of whiskey or scotch a day so I
Oh,
could numb myself.
oh
Well,
yeah.
apparently that's not good for the body. So I wrecked everything. I had IBS and reflux and all this stuff, and they were talking about doing surgery, and I was just sitting there. So, like, wow, really disappointed in your life, Chris. You used to be this great athlete, and now look at you. On the outside, everything was good. I had a good wife at the time. She's not my former wife. I had two amazing, beautiful children. So when you look at the white picket fence story on Facebook, everything looked good, but inside, I just felt alone, and I was yearning to find whatever this thing called peace or joy was, and I couldn't find it. So 2018 was a big year. I attempted suicide, and
Mhm.
luckily I survived. And I came out asking three questions. Two came immediately, and then another one came a little bit later. And the first two is how did I get here? Like, how does one get here? No one says, oh, you know what? I want to have a miserable time and kill myself. So I needed to know what were the steps that I took that ended up getting me here. And then the second question was, how do I never go back? So I needed to have a little bit of structure and a little bit of education to know where where I could get pulled, what causes that depression or that anxiety in life. Well, I spent 5 years from 2018 to 2023 going through all these 24 different therapists of Western medicine, psychologists, therapists, coaches, religious people. I stem from Christianity, but I've explored all of them on my journey in life. And so it was in 2023 when two different people sent me the Joe Rogan, Sean Ryan podcast on psychedelic assisted therapy. And I said, absolutely not. There's no possible way I'm going to do this. People ruin their lives taking drugs. I will never do this. And then I did. I said, once I saw the Navy SEALs and all these other people going in there and their lives were changing and they were becoming a good husband again, a good worker again, and they weren't having to drink substance in order to put a smile on their face, I said, wow, I'm going to try this. And I did. So I sat with the shaman. I went through a psilocybin journey and it changed my life forever. After that moment, I met Tibetan monks. There was 7 elders that came in town for a week, and had the honor to sit with them day after day after day and just ask them questions like, where do you find peace? What do you do when you get riled up? What happens when you get overstimulated? And they taught me how to breathe. They taught me how to pause. They taught me how to just simply love myself and understand that life is full of good, bad, and sometimes ugly. And as I realized that, I began to just get more and more curious, and universe kept sending me more people into my life. I met more shamans, indigenous people. I met monks. I met gurus, and I just was curious, like, what is it that you do? What is your practice? And along that path, this was now the beginning of 2024. A shaman calls me and she's like, uh, I just had a vision. You're supposed to be a death doula. And I'm like, wow, what is that? And why are you dreaming about me?
Did you know this person prior?
Yeah, 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 I did. Didn't know anything about me, but she had a vivid dream, and I was in it, and I was supposed to be a death doula, studying people that are dying.
Hmm.
And so on that path, I did some online training through Elizabeth Kubler-Ross of the Center of Mexico, and then I ended up flying to Mexico and going through these courses that teach everything that it means to be a death doula. But that was my journey of coming to where I'm at now as a death doula. And then I don't know if you want me to go somewhere else, but if you want, I can go into a little bit of like what a death doula is
I
and
would love that. I would love to better understand what a death doula is.
yeah, it's everyone is a death doula, everyone is a caregiver. We wear many hats as we navigate through life. So, a natural thing would be we all witness the birth in a family. We
Mhm.
all witness them coming to teenage years, into adulthood, becoming their own, going through midlife crisis. Hopefully, you can skip that one. And then
Oh,
as
I'm
we
way beyond
age,
that.
yeah. So, but it's the whole birth, life, rebirth, or whatever you want to call it, but
Mhm.
death and whatever happens. We'll call them different transitions or phases of
Right,
life.
right.
And when we witness this, you are holding space for that whether you want to or not. My
Mhm.
thing is that I go outside of the family of witnessing the birth and sitting people to witness the life and the things that can occur, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then towards death. But in here, it's much more separated because kids are moving out and grandparents are put into facilities. And so we don't necessarily witness all of it. But for those that do, that are able to sit with their mom or their dad or their grandparent in
Mhm.
their final months or weeks or days, there's something profound that happens. And the more that we spend time in those moments, we're witnessing a mirror. Everything that we see is a mirror for us to reflect upon to say, is that me or is it not? And so by sitting with people that are dying, you're going back to your very core basics of what life is about. And as people near death, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of thoughts, a lot of emotions that are occurring, especially if you're told you're 50 years old, you've got cancer, you've got 3 months to live. There's no reversing it. I'm sorry. You're going to sit there and you're going to have a lot of thoughts that pour through of like, oh, shoot, I got 3 months to live. What do I have to get done? What do I need to get done? And what's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to my kids? What's going to happen to all my materials? And so, as all those thoughts are coming through, you need to have the tools to be able to navigate that onslaught of information.
Mhm.
And so, as a death doula, we do many things, but I'm going to help you dissect your life. And we're going to slowly make sure that, one, on the left brain, that everything's logistically taken care of. We're
Mhm.
worried about what's going to happen to the materials. So, of course, we'll talk and I'll say, have a power of attorney, have a will, have an understanding. Do you want to be resuscitated or not? What do you want with all this material stuff that you've collected? But let's get past that because that's not what I focus on as a death tool. The next part might be maybe a legacy. Maybe there's a project or something or a book that you want to get written, or maybe it's just a sheet of paper that has a series of stories that you want to pass on. So you begin to think about like, how do I want to be remembered? And so I'll take people down that route. But as you learn about how you want to be remembered, what's your eulogy going to be? It begins to reveal things of which maybe you're not proud of. Maybe you wasted time on. Maybe you have regrets or remorse or fear or anger. And so, as those things arise, you have to be able to hold space for that. And many of us just simply were not trained with how to do it, which is
Mhm.
why I drank, which is why I couldn't go to sleep at night until I wore myself out. That as soon as I laid down, I had to pass out because I didn't want to ponder and sort through. So, there's this end of life review that happens. In order to get through all that, I needed to be able to hold space with people, which means I was trained in this to not lose train of thought. So
Mhm.
if your name is Sue and you're sitting with me and you begin to tell your story and you're like, blah, 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 and my son, cousin this, I am listening to everything that is coming in. I'm feeling your aura. I'm watching for images and visions and colors and numbers and all this stuff. And it all pops around me because I am just a hollow bone. I am the one that is transmitting and allowing universe to flow through so that I can hold that space for you. And it's not even I that holds the space. I am just allowing. And so in those moments, as your story unfolds, people begin talking about the good. So they talk about their successes in life and the physical, the mental, the emotional, their work. And then as that begins to unfold, maybe there's something that pops up and tears come. And you're like, you want to talk about that? And as they begin to express, they're also letting go because they're discharging all the energy that was stored up around it. They're
Oh.
also letting go of the identity that is tied to all of these stories. Because when you pass, when your soul exits the body, you take nothing. Not your body, not your successes, not the bad stuff, nothing. It's just you being set free. And so, as people unfold those stories, I need to be able to hold concentration. So, if you go on a tangent for a half hour, I'm fully attentive to it. So, when you're like, what do you think? And then I'll regurgitate back to you everything that I thought were the highlights. And then through that moment, you continue on your story because you are seen, heard, felt, and you can let it go. But
Wonderful.
then we take it a level deeper because as it arises, and you can find this more profound in people that have experienced a big T trauma, whether the world calls it that or not, something that really, really impacted you, that emotional charge will create tears, or your hands will start shaking, or your throat will get so tight you can't get the words out.
Mhm.
And that's our natural born body doing what it's meant to do. It's meant to survive. And when we feel weird or awkward or cornered or like something's too much, our sympathetic system turns on, that fight, flight, freeze. And so the stomach tightens, the chest tightens, the throat tightens, and all of this. And so I teach people about what will happen to the body as we approach fear, as we approach death, and how it changes. But then, how can you self regulate that? And so I teach people breath work. Simply by slowing down the exhale, we're able to stay calm. And we notice, oh, wow, I'm getting really worked up about talking about this topic or the story of the past. But if I breathe and slow the breath down, that I can now begin to approach and we begin to talk about it. Or I will have them give me a third person, a disassociation approach, as if I'm not the one that had experienced that rape or that murder or this vehicle accident, but I'll describe what Chris went through. And there's something about disassociation to
Mhm.
where we can talk about it and finish the story. Finishing the story is the key. So that's what I do as a death doula is we work through all of this. And then there's another layer beyond that, which I alluded to earlier, of you can think of it as holding space or channeling or just being open to seeing what images arise as they're talking. So for instance, sometimes I've seen a green truck or a teddy bear and I'll be like, did you have a teddy bear in the past? And they're like, I did. And I'm like, cool. Do you want to talk about that? Is there something there? And maybe there is, or maybe there's not. And so by holding this playful space and allowing them, they're fully seen, heard, they wrap up their story. And sometimes people, when I come in, well, they're gone 48 hours, 3 days, four, I don't know. Other times it's a resistance. Maybe there was a sibling that they really, really, really wanted to talk to, but that sibling's just been so busy or inundated. We finally get them onto the phone. I preface them a little bit and say, here's what's going on. And then they have a conversation and then the person passes.
Mhm.
Or maybe it was the one they didn't want to talk to that I convinced anyway. And I said, well, maybe if they're bothering you that much, maybe you just pick up the phone. Maybe
Right.
just dialing their phone number, and you don't even have to talk to them. Maybe it's just that act that you say, and then the person is like, I feel better about that. And if you don't really want to talk to, because there's some people that really violate us,
Mhm.
what about journaling? And so write a story, put it down into paper, and burn it, release it back into the cosmos and let it go. So there's all these different tools. There's like, I don't know, over 200 different things where I'm just listening to people and helping them find their avenue, their pathway to release, whether it's through the art or through conversation or through energy work of playing with the energies through Reiki or shamanic energy, sound bowls, feng shui, everything to get them to zen out, exit the mind, and be ready to go on this, whatever happens. I like to think of it as like Peter Pan.
It's a
I go,
great transition.
yeah.
Yeah. I've left my body a couple of times, so I know that in my case, I was just up at the ceiling looking down at my body. And your everything that your consciousness is, you take with you. You're the whole person that's inside the physical vehicle. I would imagine that there's times when the client needs to forgive themselves. Does that come up for you?
Yep. Because that's really where I was in 2018. I hated myself. I hated my body. I hated the person that I had become. I hated all the closets of secrets. I had a warehouse of things I was not proud of. I didn't want people to know. And those arise. I've had the common phrase of, I've never told anyone this before, but, and I'll be like, let me hold my coffee. Tell me. And I don't care what comes up.
Mhm.
I am not a psychotherapist. I don't need to report to anyone that you're having suicidal or homicidal thoughts or that you violated something else. Now, there are things of which I say you need to accept the consequences, whatever it is, but I hold the space for people to be able to vent. So I've had people confess that they have violated another human being, that they have touched a child, that they have murdered someone in their past and they never told anyone because it was in their youth and they changed their name and all this other stuff and they just unfold all these stories. And I'm like, woo.
Do they feel like they need to forgive themselves, or is it enough just to talk about it to someone to get it out of their field?
So I think of this as like multiple ways. Is first is turning that sympathetic system off because man, does that create more stress in our life than we need to. So by getting people to create this inner calmness is step one.
Hmm.
After we're at that inner calmness, then I say, well, let's go and explore. Now that we're chill and we're calm and we're grounded, let's go and explore of what may be there, what's underlying. And so we'll go through that to look in the mirror and realize that you are not the victim,
Hmm.
you are not the hero, and you're not the villain. This was a story that was told long ago, and there might have been fractions of yourself or fractals that you didn't like. But eventually you have to turn that mirror around only to see that it is you, that we were the creator that brought around our problems. And that is true forgiveness, is accepting that
Hmm.
we are perfectly imperfect. We will make mistakes. And if anyone out there knows how to be perfect, please call me immediately. Because yeah, to come to that point is that's the unfolding as we get past the ugly part where we think people are going to judge us. And so I don't judge. I allow for the space. And once we're beyond that and you realize that you are perfectly imperfect,
Hmm.
you can shed all that skin. Let it go. And then you look and you're like, "Wow, can't believe that happened to me. Oh wait, I can't believe I did that." And then you see the smiles and you're like, yes, let it go. I love reading the Ho'oponopono prayer. That's one thing I
Uh-huh.
love talking to people about. It's the Hawaii prayer, four
Right.
statements of which you can release, but I don't say it to other people to forgive other people. It can be used that way, and that's the popular way. But I read that to myself.
I have had the blessing to be there when my aunt passed, and my grandmother and my mother. I was called in by my cousins to the hospital when my aunt was passing, and I was sitting by the bed, and I saw her parents come in above her head behind her, and then she started to rise up. And when she rose up, she was this beautiful young picture of herself, not the physical vehicle that was in the bed. You probably are aware there's people that come in, perhaps loved ones that come in to assist the transition and the transition of being just a passage from one state of consciousness to another. Do you have some experiences that you can relay that are like that?
Oh yeah. Oh man. The closer that we get to death with non-judgment and allowing our stories to dissolve and we're just in the moment, which I would argue living in this present moment is very difficult in this fast-paced world that's very overstimulating.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have that space and you're able to witness the end of life, you can begin to see the energies, and sometimes you're able to witness the soul exiting the body. So when they pass, there is this letting go. They would call it the silver cord. And when people are, they can call it astral travel or remote viewing or out of body experience. You're either near death and projected out of your body. Like if rape victims, they talk about that as you're projected out of your body. You're like, this is too painful. I don't want to experience this. So you
Mhm.
exit, but there's still a cord that attaches you
Right.
back into your heart, into your center of your existence, your aura. And so, in order to get them to talk about the details, investigators, the police recount this, and they're like, wow, they weren't able to tell their story, but when someone taught them disassociation to do that, upper room, upper right, upper left room, and now they're witnessing their this body that is experiencing trauma, they're able to articulate and talk about it all. And when you see that as a death doula and you're sitting in the room of someone that is either not conscious, they haven't been awoken prior to this moment, they may have been kicked out of their body and stayed out of their body.
Mhm.
And so sometimes you see this settling in, coming back in, and they let it go, and they let go of all the emotions and the pain. And sometimes it's screaming and yelling and kicking and thrashing. And then they're like, what was that? How long was I gone? And then they let go. And to witness that has been like absolutely incredible to see people that at that moment will release all the stuff that they had been holding on to. But then to see the subtle energies, of which I thought first was like woo woo or whatever the world wants to call it, I was like, that's way too whack. I grew up very biblical
Mhm.
Christian, Catholic at first, and then non-denominational Christian. But so anything that was a discussion of outside of the books of the Bible was like, you're going to be condemned. So experiencing these things firsthand, when you see the soul, which all of the ancient scripts, it doesn't matter what religion you come from. If you go back thousands of years ago, they talk about that your soul never dies.
Right.
And most people, if I look back at I talk from my experience and my viewpoint, my first 40 years, I would argue that I was living my life as a piece of flesh that was given a name, acquired some skills, some which I was really talented at, others not so much. And that's how I lived my life. And so when I was introduced to concepts about spirituality, you're like, oh, I want this external God. I want this
Mhm.
external peace, and happiness is outside, but it's not. So when I learned that I was a soul that was using this body as a temple, as a vessel, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter, not to me. Then all of a sudden I was able to witness my life and see everything that was around it. And once you can see yourself in your fullness and your truth, you can see the souls in others, the spirits in others, and realize that they too are on this weird path, this weird world that we've created, and that sometimes we get thrown off. And that's where my life really changed, was living knowing that I am the soul and witnessing all these other people that are in their bed and coming back into their body, fully realizing who they are, letting go of all of it, and then passing. And when you see the spirit eject from the body or sometimes sit up, or they have, we call it the, not the revival. There's this moment where they get all this energy right before they're about to die, and they get up and they're like, yeah, hey, let's go have a burger. And the family's like, wait, what's happening here? And you're like, don't, they're, this is their final hoorah.
Yeah.
They're getting up, and then they talk, or sometimes they see or have conversations with invisible entities. Or
Mhm.
are they invisible? And you'll hear them talk about like packing up or getting ready to go on a vacation maybe, or like, hey, where's the car, let's go. And so they're alluding to it, and you're witnessing all this, and you're like, wow. And then they're like, and they lay back down, get comfortable, and you wait for the final breath to come. So it's fascinating. But yeah, sometimes you see spirits, sometimes you see pictures fall off the wall. Well, why did the picture of grandma fall off the wall but not grandpa? What was that? Uh,
Grandma's around.
exactly. So yeah, in having these conversations, I'm generally slow to bring them up to individuals on their path, depending on where they're from or everything. But my job is not to educate. My job is to hold space because everyone will remember in that moment, and it unfolds pretty quickly
Right.
of the realization of what life really is about
Hmm.
and things that a lot of people nowadays would question. Like, no, that was just coincidence that Grandpa's picture fell over.
Nah.
Okay.
Well, that's where
So
the whole multidimensional consciousness comes in. Just because we have such a small spectrum that we're able to witness through our vision and hearing, and it doesn't mean it's not there. And some of us have known it's there since we were children. I feel like so many kids have it pounded out of them by denial.
denial in our education system, the K through 12
Mhm.
system, I should say, at least in the States, is focused on left brain activities of productivity, going, making money, success, and all that. And that is part of our causal world, what the this physical world that we live in. But when you forget that you're a soul, or you don't have a balanced masculine and feminine energies, meaning the left brain, right brain, you need to work on your creativity and your thoughts of being able to be receptive because otherwise life just becomes robotic. That's a horrible way to live. That was the first 40 years of my life, or I would say from age 7 to age 40 was robotic and it was calculated, including my love life, which, I already apologized to my two former wives. But when you live a calculated life, are you truly loving? Are you living out of inspiration? Are you living from a soul path of just utter joy and love for another human being and celebrating like this moment with you? I am so happy to be here with you, April.
It's such a delight to hear you speak about what you've experienced and what you're doing. And I appreciate that you chose to come in at this time.
Well, thank you. It's been a journey, and I love having these conversations with people because living that calculated life is not so good. It's actually really scary because you start to feel more alone or like you have to control, and you don't really get to experience true love. I was wandering around for a long time asking like, where is this agape thing that all the scripts talk about? The Bible talks about it, the Quran, all of it. They're like, find the joy of this and all of it. I was like, well, where is this? Well, it was hidden beyond a veil, and that veil is like you need to have equal expression. You can call it creativity, your openness, your willingness to go and venture out and educate. The scientists will call it neurogenesis. That's the crossways, the pathways of creativity creates new brain matter, which helps us expand and learn. But more importantly, if your left and right brain are nice and healthy, and you don't have a lot of chemicals in there, meaning like overabundance of sugar and everything else, your prefrontal cortex opens up, which the Vedics would call your third eye,
Mhm.
and you are much more receptive to everything that is around you. When you're living in a fear state, everything comes controlled. I need to control my relationships. I need to control this. And I am absolutely certain my brain, my neural pathways are so burnt in that if I heard glass because I was in a car accident, that in this moment, I don't care if I'm at a restaurant. I've stood up in restaurants when I was under PTSD. I heard glass break. I flipped a table one time because I got up looking for my gun because I thought glass breaking, I'm in combat. And you're like, whoa, that's fear state mindset where we become controlled attached. But by
Mhm.
simply expanding the mind and opening and increasing that right brain activity, it tells the left brain, hey, dude, thanks for the suggestion that I'm back in war, even though I'm like eating in a nice, beautiful restaurant with my lovely family. Thanks for the suggestion, but I'm not. So as we balance this out, it actually frees the mind. But what comes after that, after we're free and all of this is in union and it's in flow state, is we begin to pick up other things. And we would notice this. We notice it all the time. Like, angry person walks into the room and we're like, ah, before we even see them, we're like, the energy just shifted. What is that? We can pick it up in people's tones and cues all around us of like, what is that? And so, how does this apply to me being a death doula? Well, if I'm in the room and like Bobby comes in because Bobby's just a jerk and he's not ready to let go of Dad, and his tone is bad, or he's bringing in all this stuff, then that riles the person that's trying to come to peace, to terms, to let go. And so my job also is to protect that sacred space in there and ask that everyone as they come in comes in with the mindfulness of non-judgment. Keep your negative energies and your super, super positive, vibrant ones. but just to allow for whatever's to transpire in there, because maybe that person is ready to go right now, or maybe they're ready to bounce back and recover, because I've seen that too. The docs are like, they've got 3 weeks to live. And a doula, this hasn't happened to me, but it's happened to a couple of my doula friends down in Mexico. Complete reversal. Stage 4, near death. They bounce back. Cancer's gone within like a couple months, but they started their trend upward, got out of the hospital, started living their life again, and they're there for a few more years. And you're like, what the heck was that? Well,
Mhm.
that's The Body Keeps the Score. A good book.
Everything's consciousness. Every cell in our body holds our consciousness.
Yeah.
So that's why spontaneous recoveries like that can happen. When you've gone through what you've already gone through, the depth of your compassion and empathy is due to those experiences, due to knowing what it's like.
There's a lot of people that have been through very much more atrocious things than I have. I look at Gabor Mate as one of my favorite people to follow. That really explains the drama triangle that we can get into. Of I experienced this. Oh, I would never have done that to myself, so I'm going to blame someone. So then now by blaming someone else, and I'm like, this circumstance caused this, or my mom caused me this, or my dad, or my blah blah blah, society. Well, when I point the finger, I just became a victim.
Right.
I just gave up my power.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, I never would have done that. I wish people that like first grade, they started explaining this once I knew how to speak. I don't know how old you need to be. 8 or 9, I guess, when you start getting concepts. Anyway, rites of passage to where someone would have explained that to me of this don't be blaming other people, just figure out how can we not do this again, and where was I at fault? Like how did I get myself either into this place or into this mindset or into this trap? But then I found myself afterwards, and this is why I laugh a lot, because first I was like, you know what, yeah, it's their fault. So then I'm a victim, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm not a victim. No. All right. So then I exit being a victim only to become the hero. And now I'm trying to save people. I'm like, whoa, who are you? Trying to save people? So, like, no, you're not here to save the world, Chris, even though it would be good to be the fairy godmother and just boot people, like tap them to be happy and come back to their joy. But then I found the hard part was realizing that sometimes we are the villain to other people or
Mm-hmm.
the villain to ourselves. My inner dialogue was absolutely horrible. But now I can laugh and I'm like, oh, that was a mistake. Oops. I guess I need to apologize to whomever or to me. And we move on. And that is where keeping our inner power by not giving it out freely.
Now, do you have any men's groups or classes that you help men with?
Yeah, I'm a part of Tribal Stoics. I'm one of the leaders that's on there. We meet a few times a week. I have a Monday 8 a.m. and then there's a Tuesday 9 a.m. and then I think we now have a Wednesday afternoon. And that we call it Stoicism because it's primarily focused on it. It's easier for most men to relate to, or humans in general, on talking about things without necessarily digging into the emotions or having to tell my stories. So we talk about the principles of where back in the day the Greeks had these different philosophies and topics to talk about that would help inspire you and think, hmm, I'm wondering if I'm doing that. Such as, what are your virtues? What do you stand for? You stand for loyalty and really getting to know yourself and doing that inward journey to ask like, what are my virtues? Because once you know your virtues, your whole manifestation process of what's going to transpire in your life becomes even more powerful because you took time to figure out who you are, what you stand for in this life, in this particular moment of our journey. And then you want to talk about flow state. Ugh. So, yeah, sorry, that was my long answer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you see a difference in your patients that are getting ready to pass and people that have done their inner work, their shadow work, versus people that have not?
oh, the immense joy. We can wear these masks because I put on many different masks in life of I'm going to go out. I'm going to be around so and so. And I have to show like I am happy in this moment. For some of us, that's our parents. For others, it's our boss. Or maybe you're at an awkward moment of a relationship with your significant other and you're like, I'm going to smile anyway. You're like, oh, are you good? Yeah, I'm good. Inside, no, you're not. But that facade stops when you face death. When you
Mm,
face that brick wall, whether it's a financial death, like you just lost your job and now you're panicking because you have no idea how you're going to survive. When you get hit with cancer and all of a sudden they're like, we don't know what it is. Oh, the unknown. That's a big brick wall for many people. And
mm,
so you have to face this thing. And when you go through that, you begin to drop all the facades. Life becomes to be very serious.
mhm.
And you will drop off everything that you were wasting time on, things that were meaningless, that were just hollow, empty moments. And you will see the truths, that of which you need to be more focused on. You don't want to waste time with people you don't like. So why are you going and hanging out with them? And I'll go back to Gabor Mate. He asks himself two questions every weekend. What did I say no to this week that I should have said yes? And what did I say yes to this week that I should have said no? And in between those two answers, you'll find there was people pleasing or perfection or some sort of a mask of which you're holding. And let it go.
I think that's the goal of all inner work is to be able to express your authentic self. And that's the expressing your authentic self is truly the gift that we give to others. So I love that. I love that. I think fortunately, see the collective consciousness outgrowing, and this depends on where you are in your culture and so forth, but outgrowing a lot of the old ways of accepted behavior, especially for men. A lot of men still hold themselves to unrealistic behaviors like, I'm not going to cry, I've got to stay tough.
Yeah. I think that's where it comes down to education because like when I was born in 1983, I was just looking around and you're looking around that we call it monkey see, monkey do, but I was looking for the mirror of that of which I could inspire to be. And I
Mhm.
saw glimpses and fractals of life of like, well, I like that side of the masculine. This is really cool. And then I like this side of the feminine. And I'm like, okay. And like, where's the balance? But I didn't really see too many healthy mirrors that I could look at so I could emulate.
Mm,
And so I was frustrated for so long because you're like, oh, this person I really like, and then you're like, but they're doing this, this, and this. Like, why don't they cry? Why don't they do this? Why aren't they expressive? So I would argue, and I'm going to really kind of really over summarize this, but I would say we've been killing the healthy feminine for centuries.
oh, yes.
We
I,
burned them at the stake for
right.
practicing medicine. We
Mhm.
we killed them for practicing magic. There's difference between white magic and black magic for the audience, just in case they don't know. And that is just simply my intention of am I doing the greater good or not? Greater good over the lesser evil. And am I intending to help April, to help Chris, to help whomever it may be? And by using the medicine, whether it's through herbs and spices or it's through energy and intention, we are helping heal and bring the collective energy up as a whole. And so, whatever you want to call it, label it as, is our intention is to help the world, help us stay in communion at a higher vibration than the lower ones, which are fear, uncertainty, anger, rage. But in a fear state world, which I would argue we're in, I call this a zombie apocalypse. A lot of people are like walking around like zombies. We're not flesh eating, but we're just like, what are we doing? We're in this robotic mantra.
Mhm.
And when you really connect the masculine and feminine energies, you would realize it's safe. It's okay to cry. It's healthy to cry.
Mhm.
But when we're out in public, we've deemed societal. Oh, well, we don't cry at work. We don't cry while we're driving because we could get in an accident. So we tell ourselves, we're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to cry. But when I get home, I promise I'm going to cry. And then we get home and we have dinner and we do all the chores and all this other stuff and we ignore that. So now we've retained this thing of that of which we said we were going to do. But most of our world we've deemed as anything outside of our house is not safe. And therefore, I'm not going to be vulnerable and I'm not going to cry because it's not safe and something's going to happen. People are going to judge me. I'll lose my job. They'll think I'm weak. They'll take advantage of me. All the stories that are repeated throughout history of this current era, World War One era, and even prior to that, medieval times. So if the world's not safe, then we need to have a safe place. But what if we don't have a safe place at our home? Or even if we do have a safe place at home, but you have no knowledge of how to empty out the weird things we experience in this world, well, now you're trapped in your own prison. That's why I love having these podcasts and really enjoy just kind of like talking about the importance of you are giving up power by weakening yourself with poison in. Those secrets that you're holding onto are poison. The negative, the rage, the anger, the fear, that is all poisoning your system. Let it go. Cry it out. I'll hold your hand. I don't care. But let it out because signs that you are living in a fear state is when you're reacting. When you're reacting
Mhm.
to your environment and you're maybe yelling or super negative or super judgmental, those things indicate that there's something underlying there.
That's right.
But yeah, you mentioned one thing, and that was shadow work because I only take on 2 or 3 cases a month. Takes a lot of my energy and focus to really pay attention. And I've also found myself having conversations to inspire others, so coach or
Hmm.
light living people of how to better themselves. And many people, all people want a better day than yesterday. I'm yet to meet someone that said, "Wow, I wish today was worse, the worst day of my life. Please let it be the worst." So, with that, many people will look for joy and stop when they found their first hint. But I say don't. Even when you're comfortable, seek that deeper knowledge or master your practice a little bit further and you'll begin to feel better. But in order to reach there along the journey, and the reason I mention this is because if this is joy and you happen to wander away from the center, so you're outside of the veil of joy, many might dabble in it and they're like, oh, they said eat better, so I feel better. But then they won't go through. And I imagine there's this big, big barrier. And sometimes it's black and dark. It's Sleeping Beauty, all the thorns that were built around the castle to go and find the divine feminine and wake her up and then reunite with the union of all. I love the stories of the fairy tales. But most people don't want to go and face the dragon and cut through the thorns and release all of that to then get to the end. And that is the shadow work. That's the inner child. That's the inner healing of that of which we were meant to resolve and let go.
Hmm.
So I love that you said that because it's so true. But we have to face it,
Hmm.
and I'm
The
glad you did.
the one line that my higher self, which is my main guide, told me way back when was to be truly enlightened, you must know the dark as well as the light.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
you have a healthy balance, masculine and feminine,
Mhm.
then and then only are
Mhm.
you ready to receive? And that's when she came into my life. And it is the best relationship I've ever had. It is true agape love. We still have our weird moments that we laugh about that, arise here and
Mhm.
there, but mate selection is when you do your journey to go slay your dragon,
Mhm.
and once you find that joy and that inner peace and you're just living in there, then and only then would I say, will the divine deliver. And man, do they over deliver? It's like, whoa.
Well, and you attract what you're in resonance with, right?
Yeah.
You that would like to perhaps be in those men's groups. Are those online or are they
Yeah.
in person?
Online. I try to do most everything online now.
How do people get a hold of you?
Facebook's my favorite, Instagram, LinkedIn. But yeah, I'm on all those, just Chris Eaton or Chris Eaton 10X. And then trinity-yoga.com is company website if you're ever in North Tampa area and you want to come stop in person. I've really enjoyed today.
Yeah, I did
Um,
too. It was great to get to know you. I love the fact that you're so just so open and you're helping people. I mean, I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
yeah, if
I want to get you back on.
oh, well, I look forward to it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, April.
you have a fabulous day. I
Yep.
look forward to talking to you again.
All right, we'll do.
Love you.
Blessings.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.